Well, it's another day and another dollar, maybe for Donald Trump, as the tariffs against Canada, my home country, go into effect. And how does this affect comic book store owners and you, the comic book buyer, in the price of the comics and stuff that you are going to buy? Hello, everyone. I do have a voice in this. I am a comic book creator. I've been to the dance. I've been with Antarctic Press. I've been in Diamond Magazine 8 separate times. So I do have opinions on this. As always, we're going to go ahead and share those opinions with you. But first, how about a word from our sponsor? I wonder who it is. As if by now you didn't know who today's sponsor was. Well, it's me, Austin. It's been me all along. And guys, we are over the halfway point here with the Nyobi Outbreak number 4 Kickstarter campaign with 179 sexy backers strong. We have raised at this point 10,542 Canadian duck bucks, which is about $1.69 US. So for the price of a Starbucks coffee, you too can help feed a starving Canadian beyond the wall like me. So consider backing Nyobi Outbreak number 4 today. We have 10 sexy covers to choose from, all kinds of add-ons, all kinds of things to catch you up with everything Nyobi and everything it is that I do. We appreciate you. Thank you for coming by, checking out the campaign and backing it. And we will see you again for another video real soon. Man, God love our sponsor. He's a handsome cat, don't you think? Like he's a good-looking guy. He's pretty freaking cute, man, if I must say so myself. And I do encourage you all to go ahead and back Nyobi Outbreak number 4 on Kickstarter now. With the wake of Diamond, with the wake of Tariffs, with just the whole industry seemingly falling apart, the smaller guys, the independent guys, the small press publishing guys who are left without a home right now could really use your help. Whether it's me or someone else, please consider giving a lending hand. With that being said, let's go ahead into the article here. Comic book store owners are talking about the impact of the new taxes and tariffs and the Canadian border on the comic book industry. So people don't understand how important Canada is to comics, but I think they're going to learn. Let's go ahead and go through this. Even Image Comics Vice President Jim Valentino was minded to cut and paste our most recent article about the impact of new American taxes and tariffs on the comic book industry, onto his Facebook page, saying, quote unquote, from Bleeding Cool, not a site I quote often, but there are some very excellent points here. And adding, for all of you in the comic book biz who voted for this disaster, I hope it's starting to sink in how much damage that you have done to this industry. Larger companies like Marvel, DC, and Image will find a way, but this will most likely destroy small press publishers and retailers. And your vote is to blame. Will we survive this? I think so. But expect prices to soar and a good lot of people to be hurt, unquote. Look, I'm not going to get all political and tell you who you should have voted for and who you should not have voted for. All I can tell you right now is the reality of the situation is that my country is being punished seemingly for nothing. You know, had he not done that, I don't think I'd be speaking out at all. But the fact of the matter is I am Canadian. We're your friends. We have nothing against Americans whatsoever. It's one man making all these rules, not the millions of people that live in our respective countries. We don't want this. I don't think you want this. So let's just all hope and pray that it does end soon. Because if not, chances are your eggs are still going to be expensive. And guess what? You thought comic books were expensive before? You ain't seen nothing yet. Let's go on and continue to read. But what about the comic book retailers themselves? Eddie D'Angelini of the St. Monica Comics Company tells Bleeding Cool, quote, I have tried to start this conversation with other retailers before the election, both in person and online. Many had a wait-and-see attitude, and some shockingly believe that the tariffs are paid by other countries and not us. Yeah, people really don't know how the tariffs work. I admittedly so, I didn't know either until I started doing the deep dive. I had and still have a more concerning interest of what may come because of my particular situation. My wife and I co-own Hideo Comics in Santa Monica, California for 10 years, John, years. And that shop sadly closed in December of 2023. Well, another comic book shop bites the dust, unfortunate. We then spent several months in 2024 working with the business advisor, building our plans to reopen a new shop in Santa Monica in 2025 called Santa Monica Comics Company. We now fear that our business models will be inaccurate to start and maintain a successful business if prices increase and sales slump. Look, I mean, I hope that your shop opens. We need more comic book shops. That's true. That's 100%. But yeah, maybe the time isn't now, man. Comic books aren't exactly flying off the shelves these days. We're facing a lot of problems, with tariffs, with the Diamond bankruptcy, and the problems that we just had, even before that. People were finding comic books too expensive. Manga's been taken over. People just have lost faith. We didn't do what we needed to do to grab the generations coming up. So there's lots going against us. We need something to go for us. That's what we need. They go on to say here, if the current administration refuses to back off on these tariffs, it seems that publishers will enact a cover price increase. Yeah, of course they will. Of course they will. And people are going to jump out of comics because of that. This will quickly hurt retailers as customers buy less or decide to stop altogether. So here's the thing. I go to my comic book shop, New Comic Book Wednesday, there just the other day. And I have cut down my pull list to 3 comics, right? I get X-Men by Jed MacKay. I get Magic, because she's my favorite character. And I get Red Sonja, which I've just been getting for years. I get it out of habit. I got a bunch of them I still need to read. Those are the 3 titles I get. And every now and then I'll pick something off the shelf. But guaranteed, those are the 3 I'll get every month. I go in and I pay for my 2 comics, and it was $13 and change. This is why I dropped my list to 3 comics. I do want to get comics every now and then, but I only want what I think I'm going to like. I'm only going to get what I think I can afford. And I do it to keep my discount alive at the comic shop, because this is where I get my bags and boards and some other supplies. And I need to get those at a discount. By having a pull list, I get that discount. But I'll tell you something. It wouldn't take much for me to cut down to 1 title a month if I just want to keep the discount alive. Or fuck it. Maybe just not get anything at all. Like, those are real possibilities. And I think if comic books increase in price, even by 1 more cent, you're going to see a lot of people killing their pull lists. Let's see what else they say. We may see sales slumps across the board, and I fear that shops won't or can't pivot, may face the decision to close. A few shops closing could be survivable for the industry. But there's a tipping point. If too many shops close, and listen, I think too many shops are closed already, there ceases to be enough commerce to sustain the distributors and then the publishers as the shockwaves travel back up the comic book supply chain. And they're absolutely right. Less shops mean less places you can buy, less customers for the distributors. 100%. It is a domino effect, folks. This could result in the collapse of the direct market. I think the collapse of the direct market is already starting to happen. But what do I know? I'm just a South Park avatar. I fear smaller publishers will be hit the hardest and the quickest. Look, there's no doubt about that. AP, is not in shops right now. Nyobi Outbreak 4 and 5 should be coming to the comic book shop near you, and it's not because of this. So if you have been following along, if you have been reading Nyobi, and you've been buying them at the comic book shops, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to get number 4 and 5 to finish that mini-series that you've been invested in. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to, implore you to come to our Kickstarter that's up right now for the next 10 days and get Nyobi Outbreak number 4, if indeed you have been reading it, or if you do want to check us out for the very first time. We have everything available. Getting back to this, though, many already operate on razor-thin margins, and the additional cost of tariffs can make their business modeling a losing venture. 100%. I can tell you that just from personal experience in dealing with, with Antarctic and a couple of other people, that riding that fine line of like breaking even or going broke or making a little profit, it's a tight rope, man. And a lot of people are walking that razor's edge. They go on to say, to those online who are saying just start printing comics in the U.S., we have to remember that the reason publishers print outside of the U.S. is to save money, 100%. And to be able to make a minimum profit to keep their books in production. That's right, because if they had to pay the regular prices, most of these companies wouldn't even be in business. That's just the truth of it. With the higher costs of U.S. labor and supplies, the majority of paper comes from Canada. That's right, we have all the trees, ladies and gentlemen. We would still end up in the same predicament that I've described above. Now is a good time to remind you that the other candidate didn't propose tariffs. Well, I mean, again, who knows what would have happened, could have happened. and wanted to raise the small business tax credit to $5,000 to $50,000. Ugh, this is definitely a wild time to be opening a comic book shop. Yeah, I just wouldn't do it. Why are you going to open up a shop for a market that is shrinking and dying? Dan Dagan, owner of Southside Comics in Pittsburgh, tells me, quote unquote, I am not a fan. Economic advisors agree that the tariffs lead to increased costs for consumers. With so many comic book publishers using print presses outside the United States, I imagine there will be a direct market change. Coupled with the diamond uncertainty and loss of product, retailers could be in for a bumpy ride. They're already in a bumpy ride, man. This is just like the nail in the coffin, right? Like, really. I think every publisher should be making the announcement about whether tariffs will affect their operations or not. We need transparency. Well, I think what we need is a month to see what happens. That's what I think we need. Chris and Kelly from Roto Record Comics in Cambridge, Ontario, that is here in Canada, have told their customers, just a quick note on subscribers and comic book enthusiasts. Most, if not all, comics you read are printed in Canada by Canadians. Go Canada. The Canadian printer of these books has graciously offered to cover the cost of tariffs being imposed by the U.S. for 90 days. That's right. That's Transcontinental, by the way, I believe, who is doing that. This is an attempt to reduce the burden on comic book shop owners and retail customers during this time. Regardless of the fact that it looks like prices are set to increase in the coming weeks. Wow. So they may have news that we don't. This is news from the comic book industry, not a decision being made at the retailer level. No, of course not. So it's a decision being made at the publisher level. Unfortunately, in the event of this happening, we still have no choice but to make certain changes at the retail level in order to weather the storm. Starting this week, ordering will be drastically reducing the number of extra shelf copies we get for weekly books. Most books other than new #1 issues will be, and this is in big, bold capital letters, subscription only, which makes starting a subscription the only safe way to guarantee you get your books. It is now more important than ever to ensure that you are keeping up on top of your subscriptions. We apologize to anyone affected by these tariffs during this time, and we recognize that comic books are a luxury item. Man, we've only been saying that for 5 years now. I'll get into that a little later on, maybe in tonight's live stream. Hopefully this situation resolves itself quickly and we can all be here when the dust settles. Man, what if it's a dust storm though? What if the dust doesn't settle? That's what I'm worried about. But comic book retailer Reagan Clem of Summit Comics and Games in Michigan has a different take. Oh, I bet you do. Looking at the wider picture. Citing news stories, Honda to produce the next Civic in Indiana, not Mexico, due to U.S. tariffs. And Apple announces $500 billion investment in the U.S. against amid tariff threats, stating, I don't think these stories are getting any attention. Bringing jobs to American workers is caring about the working class. And adding, I'm not old enough to remember when Democrats were for tariffs and protecting American jobs. Look, I think it's great that you want to build more jobs in your home country. I think we should be doing it here in Canada as well. The problem is, as stated above, the reason why publishers print outside the U.S. is because of the high U.S. labor costs. All right. Sometimes that happens in the middle of recording. You get interrupted with a phone call. I have no idea where we are, other than Roger Clem of Summit Comics thinks that maybe tariffs is a good idea. I don't know about all that. But he's the only one, at least that Rich Johnson has put on here. The fact of the matter is this probably isn't good for everyone. You know, you're going to have some diehard Americans who think this is going to be an idea and fuck them Canadians. But what they don't realize is how much international trade actually happens, not only between our two countries, but around the world. You know, and if you make it more difficult for us, you're only going to make it more difficult for your own people because we rely on a lot of your goods. But the fact of the matter is that the U.S. relies a lot on ours. And this has to be worked out. Otherwise, you might see a collapse of the economy, not just with us, but with them. Right? Like, this isn't serving to help anyone, especially comic books. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Let me know what your 2 cents is down in the comment section below. Like and subscribe to the channel. And, back Nyobi. Back a comic book today because Lord knows we fucking need it. Talk to you soon.